Welcome guys to a very interesting game recap. Now last week we had a game between the people's favorite GothamChess and the infamous Hans Niemann. And Hans is quite unfiltered when it comes to his emotions, his opinions, so it sets the scene for a very interesting match. The most amazing part is that in the GothamChess livestream he couldn't see he was playing Hans. He purposely decided to hide his opponent to avoid psychological stuff. It's kinda smart. Now, throughout this recap, I'm actually gonna show clips of the real livestream because it's just way too funny. Hans, he's really just a prick and he just got the karma he deserved. But okay, let's just see how this turned out. Now, Levy starts the game with e4, and the arrogance from Hans starts already in move 1. When he plays c6, he basically wants to crush GothamChess with his own opening, as Levy is known to popularize the Caro-Kann to pretty much all beginners. Now GothamChess goes into this, he plays d4, you have d5, the standard Caro-Kann, and here he goes into the fantasy variation with f3. Now this is the straightforward idea that if black takes this pawn for some reason, now white has an amazing center here, but this never happens. Actually Hans here plays e6, which has already a pretty concrete idea in mind. If white is careless and plays something like c3, now black can take this pawn and now he can exploit the weakness of the king here, and if he blocks he's even losing the rook, so pretty nasty stuff. So GothamChess obviously knows this, so he plays knight c3, reinforces this pawn. We have bishop to b4, a3, attacking the bishop, we have bishop to a5, and now Gotham decides to protect his pawns in the center and develop his pieces. We have bishop to e3, Hans continues by developing his own pieces, we have knight e7, bishop e3, because, well, Gotham wants to take this knight out, but doesn't want the bishop to be buried, so first he takes the bishop, you have knight e7, knight e2, and now basically both sides will castle, but first Hans decides to exchange some pawns here in the center. We have takes and takes, and first e5, castles and castles, so there's actually some tension here in the center. Both sides want the other guy to take. If white takes, then the knight is getting gained, and if black takes, then pieces are getting more developed here. So here Gotham decides to play bishop c4 and prepare this d5 push, reinforcing d5 with the bishop and the queen. Now here Hans simply plays knight g6, kind of developing his knight that wasn't really doing anything besides cluttering his position here. And here Gotham simply continues with this plan and plays d5.
I already feel like I'm gonna lose. I already feel like I just know that I'm going to lose because I'm playing against a generational talent, a future.
After d5, this opened this diagonal, so this bishop here isn't really doing anything, so Hans plays bishop e6, trying to trade some pieces off, but Gotham here protects the bishop. He doesn't go for the trade immediately. Now here Hans continues with knight f6, and again Hans keeps the provocations coming.
That's what sort of makes me nervous. That it would genuinely be the end of my chess career if I lost this game.
Now here, this knight f6 came with the idea of playing knight g4, which would put some pressure here, which would force, let's say, white plays a random move. After knight g4, Gotham would be losing, because now the bishop has to be exchanged, but the queen gets in, and now there's some nasty forks here, so Gotham would have to give the exchange, and this would be basically be game over. And actually, if the knight isn't taken, now the queen is aligned with the king, and after something like a simple knight takes on e4, you can kiss your queen goodbye, and the game 100%. So in the game, obviously, Gotham saw this, and he simply prevented everything with h3. Now the game continued with an exchange here on the center, Gotham recaptured with the pawn, and now the best move here is actually knight e8, because the knight no longer is doing anything here, so rerouting it to d6, attacking the bishop, is by far the best plan, also blockading this pawn. But in the game, Hans kinda doesn't spot this. It's a blitz game, they have 3 minutes to think, so you can't expect them to find the best moves every time, and he tries developing the bishop, which also makes sense. He plays bishop d7, but now Gotham, from now on, it's just Gotham the entire game. Here he develops this rook, he plays rook a to d1. Hans decides to develop his rook, he plays rook c8, attacking the bishop. We have bishop to b3, keeping the eye on this pawn. And now this diagonal perhaps is gonna snipe the king someday. And now Hans here plays knight to h5 with a very ambitious idea in mind. He's not quite eyeballing this square, it's super protected by white. The point is that he wants to take the knight out so he can push this pawn. But with the bishop here, this is kinda risky. Well, let's see how this turns out. First, it takes this bishop basically to distract the queen from the defense of the king. Queen retakes, and now we have queen to h2, which the king stands pretty safe here. Black doesn't even have a dark square bishop to exploit these squares. So Hans here plays f5 with the idea I was saying. Okay, he wants to attack Gotham's king, but now, well, Gotham plays a practical move. Here he plays queen to g5. He attacks this knight here, and the most sensible move is just to go back with the knight. However, Hans, as the arrogant guy he is, plays knight h to f4, and this is actually a pretty big mistake, because after a knight trade, Hans recaptures with the knight, and now Gotham plays queen e2. And as you can see, the bishop is attacked, this key central pawn is attacked, and Hans' position is already falling apart. And as soon as this move played, Hans starts going into desperation mode.
Just fuck, I'm completely fucked. Oh, fuck. I'm actually completely fucked. Why did I know that I would be so arrogant and just ruin it? Okay. He is shitting himself right now because he's imagining the YouTube clickbait and he's shitting himself.
As you see, the guy realizes he's done some shit, and now it's survival mode. So he tries to push the rook, defending the bishop, because the bishop can't really move, because, well, you just exchange this, and after something like d6, the king moves, d7, and this pawn is just unstoppable. After something like this, you can even give up the queen, make a new queen, and okay, this is just over. So in the game, the bishop isn't moved, instead it's defended, right? It makes sense. Now Gotham here plays d6, he releases the sniper, king is forced to the corner, and now he takes this pawn. And this knight here is very badly placed, so Hans kinda has to take it back. He also attacks the queen, but now with this pawn so far pushed up the board and a pawn up, Gotham is just gonna try to exchange queens. He plays queen d4, tries to go for a queen trade. Hans tries to refuse to get some, perhaps some attacking ideas in the future, but now Gotham spots the best idea. He plays rook f to e1, and Hans, okay, he tries to go for an attack. He doesn't spot Gotham's actually pretty incredible idea here. So if you want, pause the video and try to find the crushing move that Gotham played here that pretty much seals the game. So Hans was basically praying that Gotham choked this position.
Levy, you're supposed to choke. This is not what you do. What the? Okay. There we go. Choke, Levy! Who the fuck am I playing?
But the point is, Gotham held his shit together and played rook e7, sacrificing the rook because he's threatening checkmate, and if the rook is to be taken, well, the pawn takes, and there's a very nasty fork here. And as soon as rook e7 hits, Hans just starts panicking. Who the hell is he playing? The truth is, there's not a fantastic way to get out of this. The only sensible way is played by Hans. He plays rook f6, closing this diagonal, but now knight e4, and the rook is it, and the rook can't move, otherwise if the rook moves, this is just checkmate. So Hans tries to limit his losses as much as he can. He plays queen to f5, the rook is taken. Again, Hans avoids the queen trade, he plays pawn takes, but now Gotham continues going for a queen trade. Simply queen e4, just play simple chess, you're winning, just trade everything down. Hans again tries to refuse, he plays queen to b5, but now Gotham actually has just a finishing blow. I don't know, in the game he didn't quite find this, he was panicking, as you can see.
And then right here, you guys saw, like, I started panicking. Right here. Did you guys see that? I spent, like, almost all my time.
No,
He has 24 seconds. He's just gonna try to find a way to win the game. Not the best way, but here you have time. So pause the video again and try to find a clean way to finish. Now the most straightforward way here is simply to play rook d5. This rook wasn't really doing anything, just bring him to the attack. Now the queen here is it, and after the queen moves, we'll simply rook here, sliding the rook to attack the king, and the game is just over. The rook can't really be taken because that would be checkmate, and if the rook isn't taken, how the hell are you stopping this? So this would be by far the cleanest way to win the game, but the guy has 20 seconds, so cut him some slack. Here he plays queen d5 again, going for a queen trade, and now this queen trade is unavoidable, because if the queen moves, well, simply queen f7, and how the hell are you stopping this checkmate? So in the game, the queens have to be traded, there's no other option. Rook takes, but now bishop c6 and Levy starts panicking. He plays rook f5, going after this pawn, but now after knight takes, pawn takes, rook e8, this super important pass pawn is basically gone. He's still winning, but he was +8 and now he's +2, so perhaps Hans has a chance.
There's the Levy. There's the Levy that I know and love!
If he takes this pawn is taken. Basically, we have some exchanges of pawns, and after the settles, Gotham is up 2 pawns, so he's still completely winning. But there's some dangers as rook e7 hits, and the rook of Hans is just way too active. But with that said, Gotham is actually pretty active as well. He plays rook g4, defends the pawn, and now he's threatening checkmate. h5 is played to create some space for the king, but now Gotham starts hunting the pawn. He plays rook g5. We have pawn to h4, and now rook d4 simply going after the pawn. King h7, rook takes pawn. Now the king starts going in. We have rook to g7, king f6, hunting the king. We have rook back to g3, and as the settles, there's not a lot Hans can do. He decides to play a5, trying to go after the bishop. Gotham simply closes this window, he plays a4. Now bishop to e4 by Hans, trying to go after this pawn, but Gotham just says, not really, not on my watch. He plays h4, and now this pawn is shooting forward, so Hans goes back with the bishop. Now the rook is going back to support it. Pawn starts being pushed. We have rook e5, going after the pawn, but simply rook behind the pawn, and this pawn is going places. So first rook g5, going after this pawn, but Gotham just keeps his cold, just plays pawn to g3, pawn is protected, and there's not really a lot going on here. I'll go fast through the last moves. It tries to bring the king to the dark square, which can't be hit by the light square bishop, who would have guessed, so perhaps there are some drawing chances here, who knows. It tries to bring the rook to give some annoying checks, but now the bishop comes here, and Gotham has some evil tricks, because after the rook check, after some checks, Gotham basically will maneuver the rook, and if you take a look, this would basically be checkmate. So Hans takes this pawn, but after this rook check, the rook is forced to come back to protect, and after a trade, now it's just a matter of time for Gotham to bring his king, and yeah, with this pawn here, there's literally nothing Hans can do. This pawn is just gonna fall. These pawns are gonna be pushed.
I'm going. I'm quitting chess. I'm quitting chess.
Nice. Who did I beat?
I'm never streaming again. You know, Levy, think of it as a gift. Think of it as a gift.
So this was the breakdown of the game played between these two huge chess icons. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It kinda helps a bit. So yeah, catch you in the next one. Bye.